Hello and welcome. My name is Amanda, and today I have to share with you my May wrap up. So, this month was a bit of a slow reading month for me. I was mostly focused, or I was pretty much entirely focused on finishing up my last class before my term ended at the end of this month, which I did, but because of that, I didn't read as many books as I had planned to. So if any of you watch my May TBR, I let my boyfriend Skylar pick out the books that I was going to read, and I read two and a partial of the five books that he picked out for me. So the first book that I finished this month was The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein. I listened to this on audiobook, and it was a 6 hour and 56-minute audiobook. I fell head over heels in love with this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I just really enjoyed the tone of it. I loved reading from Enzo the dog's point of view. It's a book that made me laugh and it made me cry. I think I did something like a vlog or something, a previous video, or maybe it was a plan with me where I talked about this book. But basically I finished it on the way home from my violin lesson and just like ugly cried in the car all the way home. And when I got home, I hugged Ronan, and Skylar was on the phone with his mom, and he like had to pick me up off the ground as I'm sobbing and saying, I love Ronan so much, I don't want to lose him. So this book was very, very near and dear to my heart. I think it's definitely going to be one of my top reads for the year, and it's just a good book. So I recommend it if you're at all interested in kind of animals and stories and their relationship with humans, and just kind of maybe reading from their perspective. This book, so I'm a part of the Creating & Co. book club, which is a group created in Facebook by Paige over at Paige Nicole, who is also the owner of Creating & Co. the sticker shop. Well, it's evolving into more than just a sticker shop, but each month in the group we have a prompt, and this month was to read a book set in our state, so this one fulfilled that challenge. This is set in Seattle, Washington, so it was not only a great story, just the plot of it and the characters, but the environment was really, really great for me as well, because it talked about walking around Seattle, going to the different areas that I've been to. It talked about spending time at Pacific Raceways, which I was just there in last September, and so it was really fun to read a book that I could picture so strongly. So this is the first book I read, and my favorite book that I read this month. The next book I read, I picked up because Audible had a sale. I don't remember if it was a 2-for-1 sale or like a popular books on sale sort of thing, but I read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. It was a 12-hour and 7-minute book that I gave 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I guess for me, it was a kind of a book that left a lot wanting. I had a hard time not comparing it to George Orwell's 1984. It had a similar vibe and feeling of the dystopian world, like dystopian modern world, where a government or a body takes over. In The Handmaid's Tale, it's not the government that takes over and changes things, it's the community and the United States, the people of the United States, who take over and overthrow the government and the Constitution, and then basically recreate a whole set of new rules. Our main character was married and a mother, and now she is essentially just used for procreation. So it was a book that I had a little bit of difficulty getting into in the plot and the storyline, I really didn't know what the book was trying to tell me. And it didn't leave like a super uncomfortable feeling in my gut like 1984 did. Like this could really potentially happen one day. So for that, I really struggled with the book. I didn't really like our main character that much. To me, she was an unreliable narrator, and I don't know if that's how the character was developed and that's how she was supposed to be, or if it was Margaret Atwood's writing. So I was just kind of underwhelmed by the book as a whole. But that was my classic for the month, so it was, I guess, good to fulfill that challenge. The next book I finished, which was probably the top priority for me to finish this month, I know it was the book that Skylar, like, it's the book he's been wanting me to read since we merged our bookshelves. I listened to the Janson Directive on audiobook. This is a book by Robert Ludlum. It was 20 hours and 36 minutes, and I gave it 2 stars. He and I have very differing opinions about what a good book is, and for me, this is not a good book. At first, I had difficulty getting into the story. The audio of the narration it wasn't phenomenal. It was kind of very distant, so it was, when I turned it up, it just didn't sound right. So I struggled with that for a little bit. I might have enjoyed it more had I physically read it. But to me, it was just, I've never read another Robert Ludlum book, but I have watched all the Bourne movies, and to me, he's just a very strict focus and mindset of what he writes, and it didn't feel very different for me. So, I mean, and this is kind of a genre that I would rather watch than spend 20 hours listening to. So I struggled with this one. If I didn't have such a drive to finish this for Skylar, I would have DNF'd this, and I don't DNF books very often. It was not great. I don't know, but if it's what you're into, like, go for it. It wasn't for me, and that's okay. Alright, so the last book I finished is a book that I had started last month. I participated in the Magical Readathon that was sitting our OWLs. It was created by G over at Book Roast, and I was reading this book for my Defense Against the Dark Arts study, but I only got to page 117 of 308, and that is The German Woman by Paul Greiner. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I'm not entirely sure. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I read, 191 pages. This was another book that just really wasn't what I expected it to be. I really enjoy historical fiction books. I really enjoy historical fiction books that take place around World War I and World War II. I don't know if this was a case of I had read so many the previous month or the previous 2 months that it wasn't living up to the expectations of those. I don't know if it just, there was something about this book that I struggled through. I mean, it took me 2 months to finish. I didn't want to finish it other than being able to mark it off. This is a book I'm going to end up unhauling at some point. It was a kind of a confusing story. It starts out, I think, during World War I in Poland, and then ends in around World War II, like almost the end of World War II in England. So at first we follow the main character, the main female character in this, who is the German woman. She's English, her husband is German. She's a nurse, And then events happen that basically she moves around quite a bit. Later in the book, she meets this gentleman whose name I can't even think of right now. Klaus, I think is what she calls him, but he goes by multiple names like Klaus or Charles. He is an American who basically got kicked out of his country and is now living in England and working as a spy for the Germans. But the people he works for thinks that this woman that he's fallen for is a spy. And I really don't know what point this story was trying to get across. I don't have a lot to say about it. It was all right. Definitely not a favorite though, and not really a book that I care to revisit again. All right, and the last book that I picked up for this month that I probably will finish by the end of the month, as I'm filming today is Tuesday the 29th, so I still have 2 days, but I wanted to get this up for tomorrow, so Wednesday, is Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. I've read 39 pages, and this is like 192 pages. It's really good so far. I'm enjoying it. I'm excited to see what adventures Mr. Fogg and his manservant, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's like Passepartout or something. I don't speak French, but I'm excited to see what kind of adventures they get on together and just read this, hoping that they make it around the world in 80 days and he can show all his stuffy friends up, and you know, it's a fun read, so I'm excited to finish this, and I do think I'll be able to finish it by the end of the month. So that's what I'm currently reading. So this month I read a total of, I read a total of 3.5-ish books, but we're just going to count it as 4. My average star rating was really low this month. It was 2.75. I listened to 39 hours and 39 minutes of audiobooks, and I read 227 pages. So, like I said, it's a pretty slow month for me versus what I normally read. Even my audiobook hours were really low. But like I said, I was working on school stuff, and that's more important. So I'm excited for a fresh slate for June to get my reading count, pages, books, hours back up. So I'm excited to see what I can accomplish next month. I would be interested to know what your favorite book was for this month. So if you feel so inclined, please leave that down in the comments below, and I will chat with you there until my next video. Bye!